In a world where progress never sleeps, one company stands out as the driving force behind infrastructure and energy solutions. Introducing our fuel company and cement producer, where excellence meets efficiency. Jah Oil. The company have 30 filling stations across the country that are all operating, which includes the recently completed Yarambamba and Old Yundum filling stations. And our rates are relatively cheaper than anyone else across the country. Along the years, Jah Oil introduces importation and distribution of cement in their line of business to diversify and strengthen their operations. Are you a cement retailer? At the moment, Jah Oil is the biggest producer and distributor of cement in the country with the most competitive prices in the market. With a focus on sustainability and innovation, we are paving the way for a greener, stronger future. Trust in us to fuel your projects and lay the groundwork for success. We currently produce over 25,200,000 bags per year. As the largest cement producer in the country, Jah Oil also targets to export cement to the neighboring countries like Guinea-Bissau, Guinea-Conakry, and others. Join us on our journey to shape a world where every drop of fuel and every bag of cement makes a difference. Together, we can build a brighter tomorrow.
The Gambia currently does not have an out-of-country voting system. In fact, it never had. Not under the highly regarded Sir Dawda Kairaba Jawara of blessed memory, not under the fugitive despot Yahya Jameh taking cover in Equatorial Guinea following his democratic overthrow by President Barrow. But attempts to right what Gambians in the diaspora have long regarded as a wrong actually began with Jameh still in power. But it was Barrow who, on his way to power, teased them with the offer of a new constitution and the right to vote in elections in their country of birth. In fact, Barrow is on record as saying in a speech delivered on his behalf by late former Vice President Badara Aliou Diouf, as is to be expected, the diaspora contributed time, resources, and ideas to the work and campaigns of the different political parties and groupings in the presidential elections. However, the fact remains that they were not able to vote and be more engaged in the festival of democracy witnessed as a nation. We acknowledge the technical collaboration between the MSDG project and the Independent Electoral Commission and the contribution of other stakeholders on the issue of diaspora voting. With humility and purposefulness, this is Barrow still speaking through his late former Vice President, I urge all institutions of government and state and all stakeholders and development partners to redouble efforts to make diaspora voting a reality. That, as I said, was President Barrow a month after his 2021 re-election, urging parties outside his control to support him in making diaspora voting a reality in the Gambia. Yet when the opportunity presented itself in Parliament, it was mainly his own MPs and those with him in the ruling coalition that quashed it. Needless to say, the Gambians abroad, whose remittances for decades have buoyed this country's economy, have been outraged by the decision. Alagie Barrow and Pa Samba Jau are both lining up each to put in their tuppence worth on the issue. But first, Sariang Marong.
Uncle Peter, I listened to my good brothers, Musa Jang and Coach Pa Samba Jau. They are my co-panelists on For the People, by the People. So I join them in their protest against the National Assembly members who just voted against diaspora voting. Peter, let's all remind each other, diaspora has been a great contributor to the development of our nation. And we all felt betrayed by the people who we fought for to enjoy those positions today. We must keep in mind that government initiative and government control in many respects so distinct features from citizen initiated procedures. Citizen initiated procedures are more open for open participation, innovation, and likely succeed in a ballot box. Nevertheless, citizen-initiated procedures offer a great potential for supplementing and balancing the institutional shortcomings and power structure of representative democracy, particularly in times of political crisis. Direct democracy can provide an important function in offering channels for reactivating popular sovereignty as fundamental value and force of democracy. This power of preserving the source of popular sovereignty alone makes it worthwhile to keep direct democracy going on the routine condition of democracy. Not long ago, everyone was praising the diaspora because they were instrumental in ensuring Yahya Jammeh was booted out of Gambia. You know, when I watch Dawda Jallow, the current Attorney General and Minister of Justice, play a lukewarm and lackadaisical attitude in his position by not standing up and interpreting the Constitution, I think it's a betrayal to his legal fraternity and Gambians at large. Let me remind everyone in the saying in Mandinka, they said, Momin buka nyina kununna, wala kuke nyoya diata. In Wolof, nit ko hamne, dude fatele ku demba, mo neh jeflante. Peter, we all feel betrayed. We are down, but we're not out of the game yet. We will build the resilience. We'll build the perseverance, and we'll get up and fight. The ultimate result is for Gambia to get out of its current predicament. It's sad by every measure, by those National Assembly members who betray the diaspora in suppressing our voices and vote. To my brothers and sisters in the diaspora, let's get up and fight. This is the beginning, not the end.
That was Sariang Marong. For Samba Jah, 25 years is far too long a time for citizens of this country, whose only crime, if you can call it that, is to find work in other countries and be supporting their homeland financially, to be fighting for the right to participate in choosing their leaders.
Good morning, Peter. Good morning to all the listeners. Peter, I must start by commending the Attorney General and Minister of Justice for doing the right thing, the sensible thing, of delay the vote on the draft constitution, because there is absolutely no doubt that if the draft was to be tabled as it is, it would fail and fail miserably. And Peter, talking about the draft, yes, you were right. When the 2020 draft was defeated by Barrow and his supporters, Dr. Ismaila Ceesay, and rightly so, blamed Adama Barrow for that failure. Now to the topic of the day. The decision by the National Assembly to delete Clause 14, which would have given the diasporans the right to be registered in elections. Peter, this bill that they are tabling went through one of the most rigorous consultations from 2018, when Mr. Batambedu was the Attorney General. Civil society, political parties, inter-party, and members of the diaspora were all consulted. In fact, Peter, just to give it historical context, there was even a hearing at the National Assembly, chaired by the former Speaker, Mariam Jabdenti. A hearing that I and many others participated in from abroad, because it was hybrid. And we made the argument on why the diasporans must be registered to vote in accordance with our constitution. Peter, some would argue that this whole talk about diaspora vote is new, but if they do that, they've not been paying attention. Peter, 25 years ago, in the year 2000, 6 years after Jameh came to power. Gambians in the diaspora on Gambia L wrote a petition to the IEC asking for their rights to be enfranchised, to be accorded to them. Peter, that same year, Honorable Halifa Sallah of the People's Democratic Organization for Independence and Socialism, DOI, wrote a letter to the IEC asking for Gambians in the diaspora to be enfranchised. Because, Peter, there is no law in the 1997 Constitution or any subsequent Elections Act that prohibits the registration of Gambians to vote. Peter, I've had the argument made that if we were to be registered, that 95% of the people in the diaspora will vote for Adama Barrow. You see, there is nothing more dishonest and erroneous than to suggest that this whole talk about diaspora registration hinges on whom we want to win the elections. That is the furthest thing from the truth. Our argument for 25 years has been nothing more than asking for a right that is guaranteed to us by our constitution to be accorded to all and sundry. Peter, this fight is not an ordinary fight for us. 25 years is a long time ago. And during that period, some of those that are talking today, trying to ridicule or minimize what we are doing, had the occasion to write books, to go after Jameh, only to turn around and walk back that whole book just because they found themselves now as friends of Yahya Jameh. But during that period, when people were acting like Mbuya boys, going in every way that the wind blows, some of us had remained as constant as the northern stars as we continue to fight for this right. Not because of me or anybody else, but because of all Gambians in the diaspora, whether you support Adama Barrow, whether you support Halifa Sallah, whether you support UDP, whether you support any political party, it doesn't matter to me, it is immaterial. All we are asking for is that the right that is due to Gambians be accorded to all Gambians, irrespective of where they live.
And that was Pa Samba Jah. It's Coffee Time with Peter Gomez on West Coast Radio. On YouTube, our sponsor is Jah Oil. Go back to the continued disenfranchisement of Gambians in the diaspora to hear the views of Alagie Barrow, a regular voice here on Coffee Time with Peter Gomez.
If Yahya Jameh feared any particular group of people, it was Gambians based in the diaspora. I know the diaspora is not a monolithic group. So let me tell you about those I am speaking of as diasporans that Jameh feared. When I say diaspora, I am not speaking about those in the diaspora who joined the so-called struggle because they fell out with the tyrant. I am also not talking about those who were only criticizing Jameh's brutality simply because they wanted to replace Jameh's men and women. I am not talking about those who condemned in Jameh what they came to accept from the coalition government and Adama Barrow. I am not talking about those who criticized Jameh only to turn around and worship him because they are desperate for a job. I am not talking about spineless and wishy-washy politicians with multiple tongues who say one thing today and say something completely different tomorrow just because they are in bed with the APRC NPP. I am also not talking about those who continue to mind their business while their people suffered in the hands of Jameh and his maladministration. When I say diaspora Gambians, I am talking about those who genuinely desired a better Gambia, not just for themselves, but for every single Gambian. I am talking about those who put their money where their mouths were. I am talking about those of us whose consciences would not allow us to continue living our lives while our people suffer in the hands of Jameh and his APRC administration. Those are the diasporans I am talking about. Jameh feared no one more than those Gambians based outside of the Gambia. That is why Jameh did everything to sideline those diaspora Gambians. That is why he had his hapless NIA monitor certain platforms based outside of the Gambia. That is why his spineless NIA agent spied on people like Ibrahim Chongan and reported what meetings he attended in London. That is why they spied on people like Pa Samba Jah, Sophie Cisse, Jabu Jo, Saul Saidikan, Sohna Sala, Siga Jany, Joe Sambu, and many others. Jameh was afraid of these Gambians because he knew they loved Gambia and wanted what is best for the country. His so-called ministers of justice and parliamentarians ensured that these people, along with thousands of other Gambians, had no say in who runs the colonial space. Oftentimes, you will hear me say that the dictator left the Gambia, but the dictatorship remains. Let me repeat. The dictator, Yahya Jammeh, ran away and is on a world record 8-year vacation in Equatorial Guinea. But his men, his maladministration, the dictatorship he created, largely remains intact. When some of us insist on accountability and not this so-called transitional justice system that focuses on security officers while embracing civilian linchpins of the dictatorship, it is to uproot the dictatorship completely. What we see with the disenfranchisement of Gambians is as a result of not holding people to account for their actions during the tyranny of Yahya Jammeh. Jammeh was afraid of the diaspora, and he held many of us in disdain. And that is why his stepchildren, led by Almame Jiba, voted the way they did. They were voting on behalf of Yahya Jammeh. It was the last kick of a comatose APRC. Jammeh's fear of the diaspora is what you see seeping into Adama Barrow and his men and women, because Jammeh's people are Adama Barrow's people. The group around Adama Barrow will do anything to remain in power, and they see the diaspora as an impediment to their desires. Of course, everyone who is eating today would find all kinds of ridiculous justifications to defend the APRC NPP, even if they are singing a completely different song from the one they sang yesterday. But here is where they miscalculated. Their undemocratic tactics of disenfranchising other Gambians would galvanize those who care about Gambia, and just as they did to Yahya Jammeh, they would become Adama Barrow's nightmare too. But importantly, I ask, how fair is any election in which a huge portion of Gambians are denied through underhanded tactics to participate in choosing who they want to be their leader? You call that free and fair elections?
In a world where progress never sleeps, one company stands out as the driving force behind infrastructure and energy solutions. Introducing our fuel company and cement producer, where excellence meets efficiency. Jah Oil. The company have 30 filling stations across the country that are all operating, which includes the recently completed Yarambamba and Old Yundum filling stations. And our rates are relatively cheaper than anyone else across the country. Along the years, Jah Oil introduces importation and distribution of cement in their line of business to diversify and strengthen their operations. Are you a cement retailer? At the moment, Jah Oil is the biggest producer and distributor of cement in the country with the most competitive prices in the market. With a focus on sustainability and innovation, we are paving the way for a greener, stronger future. Trust in us to fuel your projects and lay the groundwork for success. We currently produce over 25,200,000 bags per year. As the largest cement producer in the country, Jah Oil also targets to export cement to the neighboring countries like Guinea-Bissau, Guinea-Conakry, and others. Join us on our journey to shape a world where every drop of fuel and every bag of cement makes a difference. Together, we can build a brighter tomorrow.